Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Lamar, and this is Lamar's Library. So it's been a minute since I posted. I said initially before my last couple videos that I was going to be doing, library books, but I also have quite a few unread books in my own possession that I've kind of been, slacking on or half read, and you know how it goes sometimes when you're really into books with purchasing them, but also, having a bigger eye for, what you want to read versus what you're actually reading. And there's a lot of life changes that happen. If you can notice, I moved. Sorry, my cat is here. I moved places, and I actually am probably going to be moving again shortly. It's my cat. So yeah, a lot's been happening, honestly, but I felt like I had to finish at least this one book that I started last year, and then I put down for a bit, and read some other books in the interim, but I picked it up again because in honor of the just recently passed Pride Month, I decided I wanted to do a special review of a book that I've honestly enjoyed, and I actually just finished it today, so and that book is none other than the book Pritty by Keith F. Miller Jr. Shout out to him. Yeah, this book is honestly beautiful. It says here, the sensuality of Frank Ocean meets the rhythm of Toni Morrison. And I think that's very poetic, and it's a very interesting, intersection of dualities, of those kind of perspectives, So yeah, where do I even begin? This book, honestly, it was one of the first, if not the first, representation of Black queer love that was very heartfelt and very intimate, but also not bittersweet in terms of the heartbreak and the traumas that often are associated with people's stories of queer intimacy. And I feel as though the author did a wonderful job in portraying and building the world with the different nuances of intimacy between each character, and a delicate way of handling the traumas that that arise beyond just as being a queer person, but in our everyday communities and life as a Black person. So it has two main perspectives, which are these two lovely people. Yeah, so this is Leroy, and this is Jay. If you guys don't know, it's so it's how do I explain it? It's Leroy is a part of a familial gang that is the head of all the gangs in the area, but they're trying to commune them all into a common purpose. And this kind of also ties back into how historically gangs were created in Black communities to protect the assets and establish and cultivate that general wealth and protect what no one else really in this is a white patriarchal society is willing to defend, which is Black love and Black communities and stuff. So in this story, Leroy's family is it's mostly meaning his brother and his father, and his trans auntie, she's a cool character. Yeah, they're all tied into this organization called the Black Diamonds. And yeah, so there's some how should I say, mystery, some thriller elements to this book. It's not just a romance book, which is what I really appreciate about this as well. I feel as though with Jay also kind of unpacking and unraveling his sexuality, but unraveling also his feelings towards both the main, love interest, Leroy, with another, I guess, love interest. It was a family friend that came in for this part of the summer too, for the summer, which his name is Will. And, you know, kind of juggling those two, because initially he's trying to be with Leroy, but, you know, with the tensions and the animosity that arises with the living with and being, I guess, a part of a gang, it can be unsafe at times, especially, you know, as you fight against forces that are beyond just the everyday average person, you know. And I really appreciate how this book also talks about, you know, gentrification, and it talks about the realities of, honestly, like, some of the corruption in the police and the corruption in our law enforcement. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, these black neighborhoods, these black communities historically have been demolished and reimagined into something of more of a favorable, beneficial kind of cul-de-sac of things that white people and white businesses, whiteness can, like, prosper, and, like, they uproot people's communities and uproot people's, like, livelihoods, all for the sake of not being able to see and witness and be comfortable with, you know, black people thriving and minding their business, but also too, I feel it's a mix of jealousy. It's a mix of wanting to profit off the land, wanting to, you know, rob us of everything that we're worth and make us forget our own beauty and our own strength and our own resilience and worthiness. Yeah, this book talks a lot about, like, you know, not just the main relation between these two characters, but also with their families and, you know, their estranged fathers, their relationships with their mothers, and, like, you know, everybody has a different kind of upbringing and story, but it all pieces together very beautifully. And I feel like this book changed my way of, you know, I guess, relating to the world and relating to my own sense of identity and my own sense of, like, what love means for me. And I feel like what am I trying to say? I feel this, at the back of this, it says, you know, Pritty is a life-affirming love letter to black and brown queer boys that offers them hope and purpose. And I feel like and the author also spoke about, like, what a world without, you know, homophobia and misogyny looks like. And he tried to emulate that, you know, in the ways in which he brought this world to life. And I feel like it's very moving and inspiring, honestly. And I feel like it's definitely one of a kind, and it's not your average queer representation, I guess I'd say that, and especially black and brown queer representation. So I remember when I picked up this book almost about a year ago, I think, last Pride month, so June 2024. And what caught me, first of all, is the beautiful cover. Like, look at this. Let's take a moment. I was trying to get the screenshot for the clip, but yeah, this cover is beautiful, honestly. And just the flowers, the imagery. Like, how often do you see, like, two black men, like, sharing a moment of intimacy and vulnerability on the cover of a front page? I feel like that was very, in and of itself, you know, revolutionary and inspiring. So yeah, I feel like I can't spoil how it ends, and I will pick up book 2 of it, because I know that just recently came out. But yeah, I feel as though it was very moving, and it was very rhythmic and poetic, and feel like the depiction of black men in that light is only seen like a handful of times, honestly, throughout modern media, but I feel like it's not a story of trauma as much as it is a story of, you know, reclamation and of resilience, and, you know, how it feels to be wanted, how it feels to be chosen, how it feels to be accepted and embraced in every facet of your identity, and what it would look like in a space where, you know, you're growing up and nobody is really, well, not many, I guess, if any, like very few people even care about, like, you know, your orientation or how you choose to express yourself and who you choose to love. You know, it's a very powerful world to be placed in, and I feel like it was honestly, after reading, I've read Toni Morrison books, God bless her soul, but I feel like this book, I can see why it said inspired by it. I feel like it had the rhythm and prose that was definitely inspired by that, but I feel like it was more able to, I guess, grasp you and grip you into the world in a way that, you know, I haven't really seen much of before. Again, this is like the first book of its kind, I guess, you know. Yeah, it was a beautiful read, and I feel like it did feel like a piece of home, even though I'm not American. I'm Caribbean and Canadian. It felt definitely like a piece of, I could definitely feel the author's soul through reading this, and there's no way to emulate that or explain that, but, you know, that intention of wanting to heal generations of people and wanting to leave like your mark and inspire people to love and be vulnerable, black men being vulnerable, like how often do you see that? So it was a very beautiful representation and portrayal of such, and yeah, honestly, what are some of my favorite parts of this book? Honestly, I feel like the idea of having love letters is a beautiful, almost lost art, it feels like, and exploring the ways in which, you know, like the different characters, we're growing up in a generation where it's like people are becoming more and more increasingly difficult to communicate and, you know, get the message that you need to, or you want to, or your heart wants to portray across another individual. You know, in the increasing age of social media and isolation, people are struggling to find the words, and so the character Jay, like, created alongside his now friend Princeton this service to write love letters for people, and I just think that's like such a niche and unique and, you know, interesting plot line that eventually wraps around at the end, like with the title and everything. Yeah, it was very beautiful, and I appreciate also, like, you know, the idea of a friendship, a male friendship that can be, where people can be, you know, comfortable in who they are and not feel like they have to like change themselves or you know, be any different than who they are at their core, and have it in a healthy way with, you know, a level of love and intimacy and understanding that is honestly quite rare amongst black men, that isn't, like, I guess, drenched in, like, you know, toxic masculinity or misogyny and whatnot. So I feel like it was nice to see that, and it was also interesting to hear the characters discuss about, you know, the inflections of what it means growing up with within this black, brown, I guess, skin, and how everybody has a different kind of relation and perception of it, and how you see yourself and how you were told to see yourself isn't necessarily even equate to the true essence and the beauty that you hold and that others see you as, and the light that others see you as. And a lot of times, like, we internalize these messages and these things from childhood, but in the grand scheme of, you know, reality, it's like, you're beautiful, and people may not have told you enough. People might have been, you know, jealous of the light within you, but, you know, you're beautiful and you're unique, and your skin glows and your aura radiates from the inside out. Your heart is, you know, gold and crisp. And I feel like so many times we as black people and black men are just subjected to be, I guess, boiled down to what we can offer the world in terms of our physicality, whether that be our strength or our prowess. But it's like you're expected to check off all these boxes, but at the same time not step out of the lines of those boxes, if you know what I mean. Like, you can't you're expected to fit these types of stereotypes, but not necessarily fit into I guess the ideas that whiteness and patriarchal societies and the history of, you know, being the word's slipping me, but I'll catch it, being objectified, that's the word. Objectified, and, you know, like the long history of that with, like, you know, the slavery and whatnot, and the aftermath of that, and, like, you know, the intermixing of things, and, like, different people around the world all kind of have an idea of what you're meant to be, what you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to portray, what you're supposed to like, what you're supposed to dislike, who you're supposed to be before you even open your mouth. Like, when you walk into a room, people already have these preconceived notions of who you are, and this book is like a way of, like, I guess, shaking that narrative and being like, you know what, black men, you can be vulnerable. Black men, you can be artistic. Black men, you can be intelligent. Black men, you can be good at, you know, writing, good at expressing yourself, even if it might not be through words. Like, you know, everybody has their own love language, everybody has their own learning styles, everybody has their own way of expressing themselves in this world, and I feel as though we're oftentimes limited before we even get a chance to find out what that is. And I feel as though, you know, with the character Leroy, he was able to really dig within and get affirmation from his peers and those around him that, you know, it's good that I'm actually talented at, like, poetry, you know, I'm actually able to express myself and push myself past these limiters that were placed upon me before I even knew what or who I am or who I was, who I am. You know, and I feel like it's amazing to really challenge those archetypes and step outside of yourself, step outside of your comfort zone, to dig deep and find out the truth of what makes you you. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like this book, I don't even know if I want to rate it. I just think it was very memorable and powerful, and left up on a cliffhanger, which I'm not mad at, but it makes me want to get the second one. You know, I'm gonna definitely check out the second one, but before that, I also have other books that I haven't read yet, so I'm gonna get to those first. Probably the next one is gonna be more of like a fantasy book. But yeah, this was like one of very few, I guess, romance-ish books that I've read, and it was a very pleasurable experience. And you know, it definitely has a healing ointment, a healing like energy of like any rejection, any feelings of being like unwanted, unworthy. Like this book like dispels that and makes you feel seen and heard, and yeah, it's just a very beautiful, very rhythmic, very nostalgic in ways, and very real. So yeah, if you haven't checked this book out, definitely check it out. Guys, I'm not sure when my next video will be. I'm just breezing on this channel, so I'm not going to guarantee a date, but I am going to say I'm starting to read. I'm going to start reading, I should say, rereading the next book that I'm going to be reviewing. So look out for that. And happy Pride, and yeah. Let me know if you've read this book, read any good books by queer authors, preferably of color. And yeah, if you've read this book, let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know what books I should read and review. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep reading because I am in the process of writing a book. But that's neither here nor there as of right now. Yeah, I'm not in a rush. I'm trying to, you know, align with like the timelines of what the flow is saying, and go with the rhythm of everything. So yeah, stay tuned and take care. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. I know there's only 3 subscribers right now, but eventually it's gonna go up and I'm gonna be like, whoa, what happened? I don't know what happened. It just blew up out of nowhere over time. So thank you for watching. Thank you for spending this time with me. And until next time, peace.